Hello, this is Chat UTD and this is my preview of the Liverpool game tomorrow. Of course, Liverpool historically is our biggest rival. I don't know about you, but over the last few years, that intensity of the rivalry and the tribal element to the game, for me, has not quite been the same. And I don't know if that's maybe the jeopardy isn't quite the same. I think if I look back to when I was really young in the late 80s and I first started to understand football, us beating them could stop them from winning a league title, which was a great motivation to beat them. Then that reversed, of course, when we were the more dominant force. And always again, they felt like they were obsessed with trying to beat us, and we certainly didn't want it to be them that tripped us up. Rarely has it ever been that we've come together at the same time and had a rivalry where it's been close in a league title race. We've had a couple, but we've always dominated them in the 90s and the noughties. And then when they've become relatively decent again, we've been nowhere near. So, um, as I say, that jeopardy doesn't quite feel the same anymore. Um, and I think third game of the season, I think it means a lot more later in the season. The implications of defeat, the consequences of defeat are nowhere near the same. So again, that jeopardy isn't quite the same in an early season game against Liverpool, which is probably quite good for Ten Hag because you know we've seen before if you get a significant defeat against Liverpool as a manager, it certainly counts as a black mark against you, and you could be in a bit of trouble if it was later in the season. You're not going to get that 3 games into the season. Um, Unfortunately, I don't really judge us in games like this anymore because I probably expect us to get beat, and if it's anything else, it's a bonus. And if we win or draw or play well, it feels like that was good, but it's in an isolated game, and then you could go and get you could go and get dicked 4-0 by Crystal Palace the week later. So kind of always feels a bit of a reminder of the fact that we're further behind than we'd like to be. And as I say, I don't think I really judge us on Liverpool. If we get beat, you kind of expect it. It's not the end of the world. I judge us in games against Wolves, Brighton, West Ham, Villa, because they're games I believe we probably should and could be winning. And if we don't win in those games, that's a big deal. It almost feels like it's not that big a deal if we lose to Liverpool anymore. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. Um, Predicted team, I think it'll be the same team as last week, other than Xerxes for Mount, and I hope Delict for Maguire. Mount's injured, so I'm not sure there's an option to play with a false nine unless he played Ericsson, which I don't think he'd do. So I think it'll be, same team, but with Xerxes up top. And as I say, hopefully Delict in the defence. I'm pretty sure Rashford will play. I think the more that happens and his form continues to be as is, the more questions should be asked about that. And I think Ten Hag is kind of running out of places to go with this now. You've got a player dropping threes and fours out of tens every week, and continuing to keep his place. Tomorrow we've got their right back's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, and he's one of their biggest offensive weapons. And we need him to be going the other way. We need him to be defending more. And if you don't stay switched on and you don't work relentlessly against him, we're going to have some problems. And I was talking to someone earlier today, and I said that you look at your modern day wingers, and I'll just use Spain as an example. Nico Williams and that Jamal, the young lad on the right hand side. Like, they never stop running. It's like it's all action. It's they're skillful, and they're they probably are a little bit enigmatic on the ball and things, but they work their backsides off because that's part of the game now. As I said the other day, you can't carry passengers, and you've got to pick your best team. Now, let's use the example of Ten Hag. Ten Hag at the end of the season, his job was in jeopardy, and a real common sort of defence of his from people who supported him was, yeah, but where's the alternative there? And sometimes that happens with players as well. You've got a player who's not doing particularly well, but you could say, Yeah, but if we don't play him, who are we going to play instead of him? Who's our alternative? But our alternative is one of our best players. Garnacho last season was one of our best attacking players. He's developed so much. Last year, he played game in, game out. He was one of the few players that never got injured. He'd take a knock, he'd get up, he'd carry on. He scored goals, he assisted goals. He was, I thought, took the responsibility of the attacking part of the team on his shoulders. Obviously scored a wonderful goal against Everton. Has come back from the pre-season after being involved in and obviously another successful international tournament. He's come back hench. He comes off the bench in the Community Shield. He scores a goal. He makes a difference against Fulham. He was so unlucky with the goal that got ruled out against Brighton. And also, I think quite tellingly, and this is a real damning statistic for Rashford, I think Rashford played 64 minutes against Brighton. I don't know what Garnacho played, half an hour or so. And Garnacho had more touches, more dribbles, more touches in the box, more passes, more chances created, more tackles, more duels won. All of that stuff in between 25 and 30 minutes than Rashford had in 64 minutes. So there is an alternative there who's far better than the person that we're playing. And that, again, at the risk of really, really labouring the point, I'm aware. I'm labouring it because nothing changes, and it needs to change. Now, I'm hypothesising maybe he won't start tomorrow. And if so, then great. And as I've said before, we're not a great team without him in it. We're not going to suddenly start whooping teams every week because he's not playing. And there's been the odd occasion where he hasn't started, where I think the noise has got louder around them, and it's been a bit like almost we can't play him here. You know what? Weirdly though, he's actually got a good record against Liverpool. Even when he's not playing well, he tends to score or cause them problems. And we know that Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't the most disciplined going the way he doesn't want to go. And if I look at Rashford's main qualities, I'm gonna try and even this out a little bit actually here. He's strong, he's direct, he's physically built, and he's quick. Now, those are his main credentials. It's not necessarily his fault then that he's been put on 300, 350 grand a week, because loads of players have credentials like that, but they are his main credentials. If we strip it right back and say, right, all we're expecting you to do is use those credentials, i.e. run at pace, run in behind, cause the defender a problem so he goes the way he doesn't want to go. Don't worry about skill and taking players on and trying to assist goals or anything like that. Just be a nuisance and use the credentials that you've got. Is he too good to do that with? Is that what we're saying here? I don't think he is. I think that's what I'd be saying. I said you could actually be a real asset to this team if you do what you're good at. But what you're good at is quite limited. Forget all the other stuff. Go and do those things, those basics. And I think he could cause a problem tomorrow for Liverpool. Just strip it down and make it simple. If we're going to play him, try and get the best out of him. So hopefully that levels it out a little bit. Predictions. I'm going to go with a draw. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool won. I wouldn't be overly surprised if Liverpool absolutely smashed us. I wouldn't be shocked if we won. I'd be a bit surprised. And I would be very shocked if we smashed them to bits. So I'm erring on the side of probably Liverpool favourites, but I think with the crowd behind us, hopefully looking for a reaction from last week and maybe it's the international break, so you just leave everything out on the pitch. We've had 8 days to prepare for the game. Hopefully, we can get something out of the game and get a draw. I don't think Liverpool are that good. It is early season, everyone's still finding their feet. And it's fragmented, isn't it, this part of the year, I think, because you've got tournaments from the summer, which means you've got players coming back in dribs and drabs. Then you've got hardly anyone's there for pre-season, so you've not really had a proper pre-season. The transfer window's still whirring on, in particular when there's been international tournaments. So the transfer window's whirring on into the season. You don't get all your ducks lined up in a row like you want to get them lined up. That you're just getting a little bit of momentum, and then there's an international break. And you come back from that, Europe starts, and the Carabao Cup, and it starts to get a little bit more settled, and before you know it, you've got another international break in October. So there's September, October, November international breaks. It doesn't really feel like to me that you can properly get going in the season until around December and Christmas time, when you've played, perhaps like early December, you played 14, 15 games, and you start to get some understanding of what you can and can't do. And then there isn't another international break then until March. And that's just a quirk of the calendar. You can't do much about that. But I do feel like it's quite fragmented for everybody, not just United. But I think our start to the season has been a little bit fragmented. You know, we've got our players back in dribs and drabs. We've got perhaps an unexpected decent draw in the Community Shield, although they're not going to draw many conclusions from that. We very narrowly, of course, beat Fulham, and we were probably a touch unlucky to lose against Brighton. So we've drawn 1-1, won 1, lost 1. In the first half against Fulham, we showed positive intent to play in a more considered ball retention kind of way. We boxed them in quite nicely, but it lasted for one half. And we found a way to win the game, obviously, which was great at the end. Against Brighton, again in the first half, there was that more purposeful intent to play what I would say is Ten Hag's preferred style of football. And there was, and as I've said before, there's been, I said it to Guy in a comment actually, I don't think I said it out loud on here, there's been micro improvements, they're small improvements, they're things that you're looking for to try and take some optimism into the next game. And, you know, we're not conceding as many shots, we are probably trying to be a little bit more considered. And despite that, we still lost the game against Brighton. Funnily enough, I think we create a lot more chances when we play counter-attacking football, or even when we're just chaotic. But the problem then is we obviously concede a lot more chances as well. So it's a shame, because we've made some of those more, sort of purposeful changes that are more strategic and perhaps trying to be a little bit more considered. And yet we've still lost the game in a very similar way to the way we lost the games, so many games last season against Brighton. And although there has been those micro improvements, I've not been blown away at all. I didn't expect to be. If I could predict this season, I'd say we're going to finish between 5th and 8th. Last season, I said we'd finish between 7th and 10th. And from what we've seen so far, that's about right. We've only played a couple of games, obviously, so you can't judge it too categorically, if you like. But yeah, it's been okay, and I suppose tomorrow represents a chance to give everyone a massive lift, because one thing, if you do beat Liverpool, it does do that. It does give everybody a lift, of course. So let's hope we can pull something out of the bag. But I still think we're in that phase at the moment of our development where we could beat Liverpool, and everyone obviously would be hugely lifted by that. And then I'm not sure who we've got in the first game after the break, but I'm pretty sure Palace are coming up quite soon. That's the type of game then that we'd lose and embarrass ourselves in. And I still think we're in that phase of our development at the moment. So, up the Reds, and Glazers out.